Let's continue our look into the Heroes of the Borderlands Starter Set, looking at Book 2, The Keep on the Borderlands. Look at that gorgeous, gorgeous art of the keep. Well, this keep can act as our glue that brings together all of the different experiences we're trying to create, whether we are one DM for all of it or shifting and changing and sharing GM duties with other DMs. These tips will help create a better experience. There have been a lot of versions of the keep on the Borderlands. This is the classic original version of it. May not be the original cover, but that's the original content. This is the kind that I started with. This is one of the first adventures I ever had when I bought a basic box set. For all that there is this history, and there's a revised Silver Anniversary version, and there are reprints, and there are dungeon magazines from back in the olden days, they all detail the keep, and you know what? It actually all looks really similar. It hasn't changed that much. And I think this starter set is actually the better version of the keep that I've seen. There are some other products that I like. There are things about different versions I like. But I will say you do not need to go into the storied history. I just mentioned that it's there because you might hear about it. But you can safely confine yourself, unless you love research and pulling in lots of sources, which is cool. You can safely confine yourself to this box set and the information that's in this keep. This is a really good booklet. But this booklet is trying to do the job of creating an experience for possibly multiple GMs. And so it takes a certain strategy that we can do, I think, a little bit better for most groups. And those are the types of tips that I'm going to give you. This booklet, like other booklets, includes little sidebars that link to parts of the adventure, especially in the first few pages. And one of the areas that's in here is about role-playing, or as they call it here, social interaction. And we are given two options with how we might role-play. This is a sound way of breaking it down. It talks about active role-playing, and this is where you adopt the voice and body language of the NPC, and descriptive role-playing, where you describe what the NPC does and says, right? So this is the question of whether I'm going to say, "Welcome to my tavern. I am so-and-so, the innkeep. Would you like some ale?" And I have adopted a voice that I now have to maintain and a persona, and I'm speaking directly to the characters through this voice, and I'm maybe adopting a posture, right? Maybe I'm winking a lot or doing some other sort of mannerism. I lean one way. Maybe I complain about my back and I'm always straightening it. Versus saying something like, as you walk in, you see a grizzled bartender behind the bar. He waves you over, welcoming you to the bar and asking what you would like to drink. His voice is deep and gruff, something like that, right? And maybe something like you see that he favors his back as if he's recently injured it. That both are really good ways to do things. And you can start with whatever you are comfortable with and whatever feels good. That's the most important part, is that you as a DM will feel good about creating these situations, about running these NPCs. Your NPCs aren't like a piece of art that you're going to put up in a gallery and just entertain the players with, right? That they're just going to observe them and go, "Oh, yeah, cool NPC, nice accent or vivid description. Yeah, that's a neat person. I have now been entertained by the NPC and I'm done," right? And one of the things we can do, and I'm speaking here specifically to newer DMs, we may want to put so much energy into an NPC that when we portray that NPC, it's just like a package that you watch and you don't really want to interact with. And so what I'd want to underscore here is when you role play the NPCs in the keep, in any part of the adventure, but the keep is full of them, you want to think of these NPCs as your agents in the world. They work for you. They aren't you. And their job, the reason they're your agents, is they facilitate the players having an awesome time with their characters. They facilitate the characters talking about their goals, thinking through options, discovering what's of interest to them, maybe even sharing parts of their backstory, right? This is the point of role-playing NPCs. So whether you choose active role-playing of acting like that specific NPC, or you are descriptive in your approach to NPCs, That is important for you to find your style, but it's not half as important as what you are doing with your NPC. In general, being active, speaking as that NPC, will have a stronger effect on your players and their characters. It draws players into being active as well, right? If I say to you, the guard at the gate asks where you come from. Sure, they will probably want to respond. But that's different than I say, the guard leans into you. Or even, I don't even say, I actually just do it. I lean forward, right? And I say, what brings you to this keep? What manner of person are you? When I do that, it is more likely that you will say, I'm, rather than saying, my character says I am blah, right? It tends active create active, and it tends to be a stronger effect that is more fun for everybody at the table. That doesn't mean it has to be this if you are uncomfortable with it. So the most important part, again, is you being comfortable, your players being comfortable. But as you gain comfort, consider leaning towards active and encouraging, but being flexible around your players also being active over time. A good way to do either form and to run an NPC is to think of something that helps you remember what they're like. For example, a famous character in a movie or a TV show or a novel that has something like this NPC, and you can borrow some elements from them in a way that just will remember, be stuck in your brain around them of what they are like, is really helpful. Because something that'll happen in this keep is the characters will visit the keep and then they'll leave. And then they'll come back and you'll have to be that character again, right? And especially if you've done the voice, but even if you're just describing them, you have to remember that, oh yeah, they have a bad back, or they tend to always grin or wink, right? You have to remember these things session to session a few times, right? And so the more that you think about them as an actual person, then that's helpful. Another thing you can do is think of somebody you know really well, like a relative, right? If you think about your relatives, they all have mannerisms they do over and over, and you can use these really well, right? Like, well, let me tell you what I'm, and you're, being that relative. I'm not going to name anybody here on this video, but let me give you an example, right? The NPC that is a guard that works for the jeweler. I might trying to portray this NPC. And by the way, I should say right now, there are spoilers in this video. If you're going to play this, then this is, going to unavoidably have some spoilers in it, as do these 3 videos that focus on the booklets. That means that if you're sharing being DM, well, you're going to get some spoilers here and you'll have to act like you don't know some of these things because I can't know which parts you will or won't DM. And there are too many parts here. So, spoilers. The NPC that works for the jeweler as a guard, right? She has a sort of weird vision of like, I have this job, but my life should really be better. And therefore, it turns out I help myself to some money, right? You can choose to play that a lot of ways. And one way I might do that is, having recently seen the 2nd season of Wednesday, I might go with her as being this person who kind of acts just deadpan, flat response to everything, because kind of the world has just failed to live up to her standards. And so she's just helping herself to this gold, because if everything's going to fail around her, she might as well fail too at being a guard, right? And so I might just act like Gwen's just sort of dead inside, doesn't care about what you're saying, right? Just no emotion, very flat. That's how I might play this character. And it still works, right? It still tells the story of that NPC, but I can do it through this kind of character that I can think of, and I will remember to do that from session to session very well. Now, there are a lot of NPCs in this keep. This booklet is just full of them. So don't feel like you have to roleplay every NPC perfectly. Maybe you look at that image down below of this party with all these NPCs in it. You just can't do all of them justice, and that's okay. You don't have to. If you do a few fun, memorable NPCs every now and then, that's great, and have those show up more. Have them show up just walking through the courtyard as the players go, as their characters go from one place to another, so that those favorites keep showing up. Have them be at the tavern. Give them someone to hang out with, right? Try to extend those that really land, and the ones that don't super land, that's fine. They get their quest out of the way and they don't have to be recurring, right? So forgive yourself. Nobody runs every NPC in an adventure perfectly, especially a section like this that's just full of them. And the other thing, and we're going to talk about this more, is the more that you can limit how many NPCs are in a given game session, the more you can be fresh, give it your all for a few of those NPCs, and then move on to something else, like going off into the wilderness and fighting, or going off to the Caves of Chaos and fighting. And because those are different types of NPCs in those scenes, they'll be easier to deal with, right? So don't try to do the keep all in one sitting and run all of these NPCs, because that will be really difficult. If you're interested in the art of role-playing NPCs, there are a lot of good tips out there you can find with how to do voices or how to portray them. You can look up those resources as you need to, but initially lean into what you get, right? Which we get these cool cards. And these cards are very important to the adventures themselves. You not only get to show the visual, but you also get to show the information on their back, which tells you the monster statistics in case you need to roll something like a skill check or something like that. But also they tell you two important keywords and then a short explanation of something that defines what they're like. So like Andrella, the captain of the guard, is strong, stern, and just. And we get two keywords, or sometimes the keywords are multiple: perfect posture and role model. And it gives us a little more about those. So that tells you, right? I am Andrella, right? Perfect posture. And role model. I care about what people, the young in this keep, and how the keep progresses over time, right? These help you really think through how to role play them. And then importantly, they all have two rumors at the very bottom in this little orange area. Those rumors contain information that is not often in the rest of the adventure and rounds out the adventure. Knowing and these can include fun Easter eggs. So there's a whole thing about cake in this adventure, and in the Caves of the Chaos part that links in, and it's one of the rumors that really helps you know sort of what has happened to the cake. So you have to think about the bartender, and when you are running the bartender, when the character's interacting, make sure to read that rumor, which maybe will put in a rewarding piece around cake. One last tip on NPCs, especially for new DMs, and that is that when you're running a bunch of NPCs, it can get tiring. Like, it can occupy that headspace. It's sort of the same headspace being used for multiple NPCs, and it can really tire you out. So if you're doing a couple of these keep rooms and quests where they go from one place to another, give yourself a break if you need one, right? Say, hey, everybody, let's take a quick snack break and bathroom break, 5 minutes, and then we'll meet right back up at this table, right? Just give people a quick refresher so that you can also sort of shake out of those personalities you've been adopting and come at it with a little fresh energy. But we'll talk further about how to handle that in this video as well. When the characters arrive at this keep on the Borderlands, they will have to go through the Gatehouse. And the Gatehouse is a nice way of providing some initial role-playing, a quest of sorts, some direction to the characters, framing what this place is like, and kind of just, it serves deliberately as a bottleneck to sort of concentrate this first experience to help players know what to do with this. And we get two contrasting guards who make this a pretty fun experience for most tables. We get Bartho and Gala, who are both human gate guards, but are entirely different at how they look at the business of being a guard. Gala, is new, but she has memorized all of the keep's laws. She clings to those laws, recites them aloud even, right, to help her make decisions. She's pretty naive. She thinks everything is just fair. It'll all work out. People mostly tell the truth. Good prevails, right? She's just totally into that. Bartho, on the other hand, is lazy. He is a daydreamer. He doesn't really want to do hard effort or patrolling if he can get away with it. He's gullible. easily distracted because he kind of would rather do anything else. And he's sleepy because he wants to catch a few winks during the night shift, especially. So he maybe is not a person who should be a guard, but here he is, right? And you can imagine these oil and water, two of them, going at it all day, and then the characters show up, right? And yet, we, again, do not want to just create an entertainment piece out of these two. They are a little bit of color to help us engage the PCs as they arrive and give them some direction of what they can do into this keep and what this place really is. I mentioned in the previous video that a good idea for how this adventure can start is the idea of being on the trail because they have heard that help is needed at the keep. And so they want to go to the keep to visit it. This is their initial goal in the adventure, right? And they will maybe have had a few wilderness trail encounters. Maybe even they decide to go off trail, but probably just a few trail encounters. And then they come to this gatehouse and to come to the keep and learn how they can be of help, right? And make some coin and become heroes and all of that. So these guards will approach them and hail them and ask them, the question that's given here in the box decks is, do you bring peace or trouble, right? And as they interact, as the characters respond to this, you can choose whether Bartho or Gala are the most fun way to respond to the particular NPC. You can change how this works based on the particular character, right? So if a rogue asks you a question, it might be that it is better for Bartho to give the answer because he kind of senses that this roguish character maybe is a little more like him, right? But maybe if the fighter or the cleric responds, it might be that Gala is the one that jumps in and responds to the NPC. And they might give appropriate information based on their personalities, right? Color it a bit, play up that contrast. You could have Bartho say one thing and Gala contradict. Just be careful that you don't create a scene where they're endlessly talking to each other, or even more than a few minutes. It's fine to have a quick exchange back and forth as contrast, but the action should go to the PCs, right? And here, what they should want to do is the PCs should realize a few things. That this keep is a place, by and large, of order, of law, of protection for villagers, for the keep inhabitants at least. Maybe there's some villages or farms somewhere that isn't named here in this adventure, but at least for the people who live in this keep. And this keep is clearly, because it's on the Borderlands, a sort of protective way to try to ensure whatever kingdom is in this place that is further away, right? This is out on the Borderlands, the border of what we know and control. And so this is trying to hold good and law here so that it doesn't fall to evil and chaos, right? And that's where the heroes get to play a huge role. So the one of the things that this place should become clear to the characters is this is a place that has lots of guards and a good number of defenses. Doesn't mean there isn't trouble from the Caves of Chaos or other places as they hear of it. There definitely is a huge threat. But the number of guards and defenses should make the PCs stay in line. They can't just murder everybody here or rob the bank or things like that. However, some characters may try to. And I want to talk specifically to my new DMs here and my family DMs who may be DMing for kids. I've had the absolute pleasure of DMing for many groups of kids, and it really varies. Some kids want to be absolute heroes, and some kids want to murder everybody. This is not because kids are evil, but kids are smart. They sense that games are simulations. They get it. They understand that their characters can do amazing things that they can't in the real world. So why not do the things they can't do? They can't just set their classrooms on fire or murder their teachers for various good reasons. And so this can be a way that, because this is all pretend, well, of course, I'll just set it on fire, right? If you are into that, well, you could absolutely run with that. But probably most DMs and parents who are running for a group of younger players will want them to be heroes. And so if you see these tendencies in kids to want to destroy the keep, remind them that this world is a lot like our world. Ask them questions like, hey, in our world, can we just set fire to a car dealership? Can we set fire to our school if we disagree with our teacher? No, right? There are laws and there are morals, and those morals impact you. If you do that, you become a bad person, right? And sell them on the fact that in this world, they can become fantastic heroes and fight terrible villains. There are great things to fight. Things in this keep, are they really important to fight? Right? Ask them those questions so they can mull it over as they think about it. And while some games do allow you to be villains, this starter set is not written for you to be that. And you could say to them, hey, if you guys really like the idea of being like anti-heroes, we could think about that and have a campaign that does that. But right now, this is really a place that's going to reward you, give you cool things if you're heroes. And that might help them go, okay, yeah, let's get those rewards. Let's get these benefits. I get it. And you are not being adversarial. Right? Kids often, especially in a make-believe setting, will react to adversity as something that a competition or something to overcome. So here you let them kind of make that decision. Wouldn't it be great if you guys are more heroic, because that's what the adventure is set up to do, and you'll get rewarded for it. Try to encourage them to be those superheroes that they can't be in real life, and give them that instead as their goal. All right, that was my advice for parents and kids, because it is really important. Most adults will not try to absolutely take everything down, but for those who might, you can just remind them there are clearly a lot of guards here, and they take law very seriously, as do the citizens. The other thing you can do for a more adult player is to show that this keep does really stand as a bastion against chaos in the area. If it itself becomes unsafe, if people start leaving because, heroes just come in and rob you, then evil will win, right? So if they care about these things, they themselves have to act as morally righteous, within reason, right? There's room for anti-hero play too, but within reason, right? No murdering, no robbing the bank. All right. Let's tackle another question, which is what to do if players don't interact when NPCs reach out, right? So they arrive at the gate and Gala calls out and asks why they're here. And they go, we just came we heard you need help. And then your NPC says something and they say nothing back. Right? And everybody's sort of looking at each other. This can happen, especially with new players who aren't sure how to get into role-playing. So what you can do here is ask questions to engage them and flip the action around, right? So let's say that you are hoping that at the gate, they will ask things like, where can I get a meal or buy armor? And they're not doing anything like that. And you're hoping to get them interested in the town itself. So flip it around. Gala asks the fighter in the group, are you trained as a warrior? I see you hold your weapon, sword quite capably. I would recommend you visit the trader's shop. And Bartho might ask a wizard or a rogue, hey, do you ever have to rest from all this hard work you're doing? I've got a rumor you might appreciate. And then after this conversation, say, by the way, the beds at the inn are so soft. Oh my gosh. But if you can't afford it, I've got other alternatives. And see where they take it from there. Try to, when possible, end it with a question, right? Like, I've got a story I could tell you. Then after they engage, share the rumor, right? Are you sleepy? See what they say, then say, if you love the softest beds like I do, man, the inn. But hey, if you run out of coin, I also got options. What are those options, right? Get that back and forth going by turning the questions you hope they would ask around to cause them, right? To prompt them out to the characters. The other nice thing about this is as you ask questions, you know what these four characters are. Unlike a lot of D&D games later where you won't necessarily know exactly what people have built, you have those pre-gens and you can look at them in between gaming sessions. And so you can think, all right, the wizard that has this background and the rogue that has that background and so on. And you can ask questions from NPCs that are directed to them, right? Tell me your story of how you became a brave fighter, right? Things like that. What kind of god do you follow, right? You can ask questions like this, and you can always say to the player, right? You can drop out a character and say, hey, you may not know what god you follow. If you want some ideas, let me know. Otherwise, just come up with something and we'll roll with it, right? It's okay to break that wall and talk out of character. Meta talk like that is fine. All right. So in this scene at the gatehouse, what you ideally want is for some sort of back and forth between these guards, using their contrast to make it interesting and to give different ways to talk to different characters, right? Maybe Bartho's hitting up the wizard and the rogue, and maybe it's Garlo's hitting up the fighter and the cleric. And as that back and forth is going, yes, of course, they need to know that these are good people, good heroes that they're letting in, but also give them some information. There are rumors, locations that might be of interest to them. So whichever places you want to direct them to, this is your opportunity. They are your agents, and you can name the places you think that would be fun to start with. I'll say right now, keep it to just a few, right? Give them a few, like maybe one per character, right? So that's 4 total, which can also be the ones that you prepare or are most prepared with. It helps here for this scene if you have a list, and it can be just on loose leaf paper, whatever is easiest, of all the locations in the keep and the name of the NPC. If you have that written down, then if a character expresses an interest, hey, do you have a jeweler? You can say, yes, you can visit Link and have the number on the map number key available. Then you can easily direct them to where it is. It's just up the street that way, right? And that becomes really easy to run versus having to flip through the book. Now, it's not a lot of pages, but if you write up a little list like that, the map number, the name of the location, and the name of the person that's there, you're all set, right? Trader's shop, tavern, right? Some of these are very obvious, but some others will be less likely. Now, there are also the quests. So there is the quest for entry screening. And here, Gala says that you can get pay for engaging with the characters. This is almost duplicative with Bartho's quest. So I think that I would suggest that Gala should just focus on recommending particular places to particular characters, as does Bartho. Have Bartho at the end run up and say, hey, essentially, will you do my job for me and go check in on various locations? I think that's more fun. It has a little bit of humor to it and might please certain characters and players more than others. And so if you use the box text that's in the quest entry screening, leave off the residents usually pay for a job well done, and just leave it at that generic level of, hey, I encourage you to speak to people. And then Bartho adds his quest, which is one that actually offers pay. All right, so that's the gatehouse. Let's talk about how many quests we should have. Ideally, you want a few quests that are in the keep. Then you would like them to travel and explore to some other area. Initially in play, the wilderness is ideal because it has challenges that are a little easier when the characters are low in level. You want characters and their players to feel good, gain confidence, learn what their characters do before they face stronger challenges. Also, once they level up, they will be able to handle mathematically the harder challenges that are out there in like the Caves of Chaos. So consider arriving at the keep in the afternoon. They talk at the gatehouse, they can go to 2 shops, and then they might find that the shops close because it's late in the day, and they can go to wherever they choose to stay, the inn or the barn, and that can also be an experience there that you play out with its own quests. And then the next day, they could visit 1 to 2 quests again before heading out to explore, or just head out to explore, up to them. That sets up a nice cadence, something like 1 to 3 keep quests, going out and exploring, coming back, 1 to 2 or 3 more quests in the keep, and so on. And that builds a nice cadence in between trips. The keep becomes the place that they come back to rest when they're hurt, and you encourage them to do that whenever they're hurt, because per the special rules of this starter set, nothing out there is safe enough for them to just take a long rest out in the wilderness or out in the caves. It's a little different than normal D&D, but it's perfectly fine, and it's reasonable to say that a place is too dangerous to rest. Fine. And in this case, works great because it takes you back to this place. But what I think you want to avoid is you don't want to have them arrive on day one and just walk around this map visiting every single location. You will get tired of being in the town, and you will run out of energy running that many NPCs and that many town quests. Splitting up will be more fun. To do this, what you can do is change a bit from the model that's given here, where every place has a quest ready to go. You walk in and a quest can be presented. There are a number of shops where you can actually delay the quest really easily. Here are some of them. The Barn. Cornflower's goats can escape on a different day. Lenk the jeweler might say he's expecting to need their help in a couple of days when he gets a new strong box in, and to check back in with him, right? Great thing where they can meet Lenk, get most of that location in, but the quest itself will draw them back at a later time. And also keep them coming to this keep because, hey, remember that jeweler's going to have something for us. Trader's shop, the delivery can be taking place on a later day, right? So initially, it's just a place where you might trade, buy some things, look at what's available, show them that cool trader shop handout. But actually making the delivery, it'll be one of those later days that you come by the shop, and you can even walk by the shop and the owner says, hey, could you come in? Could you help my sons with something? And you deliver that, and you add that quest around the delivery. The tavern has the Chug Champion quest, and that can take place on any day. In fact, you can build anticipation by saying that 4 days from now, when they first visit the tavern, there is this Chug Champion contest. You must come back, heroes, and try this out. See if you can beat the locals here, right? That can be a fun way to build anticipation and gives them something to do to come back for. The guild house, those scrolls can arrive or be dealt with on any day. She could even say she's expecting a shipment, and when it arrives, then call them in. The temple has 2 quests, and you could easily split those up. So you do one when they first speak at the temple, and then Fazir seeks them out for the second quest. The one that's related to the chaos rune, that might be one that you can do later to make it more of the caves of chaos being an impending problem if they haven't been there yet. Otherwise, you could do it earlier to let them know that there is this larger worry about the caves of chaos and their influence on the keep, and that the keep has some fragility to it. Up to you, depending on what you think would work for the group. But breaking up those quests is a great way to help with that cadence of do a few things in the keep, do a few things somewhere else, come back. As I mentioned before, don't forget those NPC cards, right? You want to, show the visuals and look at what those rumors are on the back. It's super, super important because otherwise you'll miss information. It's an easy thing to do if you're not used to using these cards. So just make a habit of holding them out when they're talking, which you will then see the back end, and it'll remind you, oh yeah, I got to read the rumors. I got to give those out because they are important to play. They help engage and they facilitate the engagement because they create these questions, right? Now, one thing that happens with these NPC cards is that some of them have false statements, right? So, if you find yourself face to face with an owlbear, just play dead. It will quickly get bored or move on. And one of the things you can do, especially for new players, is soften that a bit, right? That one is false. And so you might want to say, I heard from someone, I don't know if it's true, because I'm not sure they've seen an owlbear, but here's what they told me, right? And that could be a nice way to soften it. The reason being that if players think that NPCs lie all the time, they tend to then lose trust. And so you don't want too many lies, which most of these are true. So I think it's generally in pretty good shape. But again, you're well within your means or within your rights to soften the false ones a bit. Show them as a thing that they're not sure of. I heard from a friend of a friend who heard that, right? That softens a bit. Also, don't forget that the keep has several handouts. The inn, the traders, the Castellan's letter. Those are really nice. Giving players physical things like this is really cool. And there's some funny things here. Like, for example, the inn's menu has cake scratched out. So you can't buy cake. And you can lean into this if you want by having another NPC at a table say something like, "Oh, no cake. Oh, I love the cake. The cake's so good," right? We have it shipped in because nobody here can make a cake like that cake. Umbrusk has a rumor, he's the bartender, that can be used to answer why they're out of cake. And this sets you up for when you go to one of the caves, the goblins in the Caves of Chaos, and learn what happened to the cake, right? So fun things like that link the larger story are very rewarding. So we've talked about the quests that are largely in the outer keep, where you're meeting all these shops and business owners, and they can give you quests, and we've got a cadence for that. That's awesome. Now there's also the inner keep. And in this inner keep are 3 NPCs that can provide you with quests that tie into each of the books, including this keep. So one of them, literally, by the time you meet them, you might have already completed the quest. So let's talk about how you handle the inner keep. While it makes perfect sense that the leadership is in the inner keep, the flow of having them behind the inner keep doesn't really help. And we don't really want the characters wandering through the entire town, seeing all of the keep, including the inner keep, all at once. So it makes sense to keep the division. And what I would say is the inner keep should be closed to newcomers due to security risks, due to worries of arising threats. So any guards there will say, hey, we don't know you. Maybe once if somebody can speak for you, maybe they even name dropped Dwern or Elandra, then I could let you through. But right now I cannot, right? Now what we can do is we can, after they've met a couple of other people and helped some of the people there, they could meet Dwern the scribe, especially if you need help encouraging the players to go out to the wilderness. You can give them Dwern's quest and have them meet them out there in this outer area of the keep. And Dwern can say, hey, please go map the wilderness for me. And that set up that cadence of leaving the keep, going to the wilderness, coming back. This also works with the trader's shop quest of going out on the trail. So you could tie that together if you need additional encouragement or if they're having trouble deciding what to do. This works well because the wilderness, as we said, is easier than the Caves of Chaos. It's easier to not get overwhelmed. There's sort of discrete encounters and lower numbers, more manageable encounters, so it works well. They can keep coming back to the town to rest and complete Dwern's quest. Elandra is also in the inner keep as written in this book, and she rewards the party for helping people in the outer keep, which they're kind of going to do anyway. So I would keep her in reserve. If for some reason your characters are just not being helpful, then sure, have her come out and give this quest so that they talk to more NPCs and do more quests in the outer keep. Otherwise, have her come out and say, I have heard of your good work in helping our fine folk of the keep, of this keep. I want to thank you, and have her give her reward simply for having heard what they did. Just an extra cherry on top for it. And she can then give access to the inner keep, right? Talk to the gate people and say, I can speak on their behalf. Please allow them to come in. They may even be helpful to some of the soldiers here as we prepare should the Caves of Chaos ever strike against us. This now opens up a new area for quests. So the exact when to use these NPCs is really in your hands, right? Look to use Dwern the scribe when you need to get them to leave the keep and go out to the wilderness. That might be the very first day. Maybe your characters are like, we want to meet every place in the keep. And you're like, you know what? Dwern shows up and tells you, I need you to get back out there. There's adventuring to be had. You'll get to meet everybody in this keep. Don't worry, but it's really important that I know what's going on out there in the wilderness. There could be dangers that impact this keep. Please go out there and find this. And that sets up that cadence that'll be more fun for everybody. The trader's shop can be your double down on that further encourages them. Hey, I've got this quest. If you go out on the trail, do this thing. So now they've got 2 reasons to go out there. Elandra is then your reward and opens up the inner keep. This allows you to have access to more quests, more places. There are all those quests in the inner keep that they can do. Now, one important thing to mention is the experience, the way that character advancement works in this booklet. You do not gain levels in this booklet. if you need to, at the meta level, your last resort can be to tell characters to get out of this keep because they will not level the characters by just doing keep quests, right? And so let them know that truly becoming heroes will require them to test their mettle outside of the keep, and that may help get them out there. All right, so hopefully you've got that going on, right? Through these various means, you've got them going out there, and you're kind of giving them this information about how the Caves of Chaos is this great danger, but right now, wilderness, right? Start with that initial focus, create that cadence. As they get to the inner keep, they ideally have done a number, not necessarily all of them, but a good number of quests inside the town. They don't have to do all of them if they don't want to. And you can decide when that pacing feels good, right? Like how many sessions do you want to run with this game? It's all up to you. But when it feels right, you can have that quest, have the NPC. She allows access to the inner keep. Now the guards will let you in. And in the inner keep, there are some quests. There are some NPCs, including the person who runs all of it, the Castellan. And that can be a very nice interaction, sort of rewarding that they're meeting the person in charge, and that person, cares about them and is speaking to them. That's all great. They get to meet the Andrella, the human captain of the guard, right? That can be neat, and there's some quests there. But to me, the most important part of the inner keep is that this is a place where these NPCs that they're meeting, and there aren't that many, but just a few, they can impart upon the PCs the concept of a larger story. And I think a lot has been made about this topic, but look, here's the honest thing. The original Keep on the Borderlands, which lots of people like, and feel very attached to nostalgia-wise, did not have any great story to it. There was just this place with chaotic creatures living there who someday might cause trouble. And while there were some few interactions between them, there was no grand story. The same is true here, and it's specifically because as a starter set, it's trying to allow you to tell your story. It's being more of a sandbox, developing, emergent play type of situation where you build the story and exactly how it's going to go forward. But you can choose to make a larger story out of it if you want. One option that you can do just at a soft level is have these NPCs in the inner keep specifically mention the Caves of Chaos and the idea of what's called the Cult of Chaos. And they have gotten just the barest whispers of it, but it's something that used to be in this region, used to be a scourge on this land, and it retreated, but it wasn't until this keep was brought back that now, we see that elements of this still remain. And if the Borderlands are ever to see true trade and safety and maybe a village going around this keep, something will have to happen. Someone must deal with the Caves of Chaos, right? Ideally heroes. If the heroes do not help, right, what they should get the understanding of is this keep might fall, right? And all of the trade and all these people would be impacted by that. So that creates a larger story. It's not a huge story like some of the other 5th edition books, but it is nonetheless a decent narrative upon which the more important story, the story of your characters, the emergent story, will be created. But again, you can reinforce that through this play. So in the inner keep, they will have there are these 3 main and really 4 NPCs. There are the gate guards that are and there are the inner guards that are practicing, including the head of the forces. That's all well and good. And then you have the two NPCs I mentioned, Dwern the scribe and Elandra the advisor. I would suggest they've already met them, but they can meet them again whenever they come in here. And then they can meet Winvarl the Castellan, who is the noble human who holds court, leads this place, has been given the right to lead this keep by whoever the larger entity is in this land. We're not told, neither in the original nor in this one. So Winvarl will talk about that Cult of Chaos as well, and really direct them to head towards the Caves of Chaos. And you can do that with Winvarl as needed, or you can do it with other NPCs that are in this inner courtyard. But the inner courtyard can then become your way to launch them towards the Caves of Chaos, right? This is also a good time to have that quest that the priest has, which with that chaos rune that's been drawn on a wall, right? That can show that, oh, agents of this chaos cult are clearly active, right? And so if all of these chaotic peoples in the Caves of Chaos unite and come after us, well, this keep could fall, right? So that creates a neat way to move from a cadence of wilderness and keep to keep and caves. You may find that there are some wilderness you haven't been to, and yet it feels like it makes sense to move to the caves. That is totally cool. There is no particular, you can't really plan for when these things feel right, I think. So just play it by ear. Ask yourself at the end of each session, is it time to go to the wilderness? Is it time to go to the caves? Should we maybe even every now and then go to the wilderness? And if that seems like what it would change it up, like if you think your players, as they start going into the caves, are a little bored, right? Next time to come to the keep, one of their beloved NPCs has gone missing and they went to the wilderness to one particular place. Oh no, the cult is sacrificing them, right? Like use one of those encounters they haven't visited, put the NPC at the heart of it, draw them to it just to bring them back to the wilderness and change things up a bit and keep things interesting. Or don't, and just say, hey, you only went to X wilderness quests. That's fine. The rest of the adventure will be between keep and caves, and we'll reach a conclusion. It'll be just fine, right? You do not have to go to every place in an adventure, especially if the players are seeming like they want to maybe finish out this adventure and then start a new one, maybe with their own characters that they create or something like that, right? So this is all something that you'll go by feel as you're running the starter set, thinking on whether you want to run a longer campaign, a shorter campaign, and what should be in the campaign. It's also important to note that at the very end of this booklet is actually this whole scene or a few paragraphs on ending the adventure, which creates a sort of celebratory scene where the heroes are thanked for what they've done. You get to decide exactly when this end happens. And so whenever you think that enough work has been done in the Caves of Chaos, that it is no longer this agent of trouble, then they can come back and report their findings, and the Castellan thanks them and invites them to this gala affair, and that can be a nice time to kind of wrap up the campaign and this celebration and party. And all the NPCs being thankful. Their favorite NPCs can reach out to them, maybe give them a small token or gift for future adventures, and then they can head out on their way, right? And that concludes the whole experience. Ending a campaign is a hard choice, but it's really about the feel of how your players are feeling about the end coming, how you feel as DM. Sometimes your players might want to keep going, but you go, I think this has been good. I'm going to end it. And if you've been passing the torch around with different people being DM, then you'll want to talk about it. Just talk about it openly. All right, we've been taking turns DMing. Does anyone feel like they want to DM longer? Do we want to wrap this up and get towards the end? And look at the Caves of Chaos and their state. Right? Let's say that a place and we'll talk more about the caves in the next video, but if you've got a situation where you say, okay, these 3 caves, we didn't fight them, but we kind of convinced them to not be on Team Evil. Well, those are pacified. And this one that you couldn't talk to and they're evil, we took care of them and we got rid of this artifact that caused trouble. Maybe we're good, right? Like the Caves of Chaos will kind of be dormant and not a problem for a long time. And we remove the main source of that chaos and evil, then we're good. And we can go back to that ending and feel good. But if someone says, I really want to visit that other cave we never went to, we heard about that place, I want to go see that place in the wilds, then maybe it's worth doing one more session and just have that conversation with your players and then throw that big end party. And you can complete that starter set and put the lid back on the box. But we won't put the lid on this video quite yet, or at least on this video series, because we haven't talked about the caves yet. So next time we will dig into the actual caves and the fun encounters that are there. I love what they did with the caves, but I hope this video on the keep has been useful. I hope the advice about role-playing, I hope the interesting ways that you can use NPCs in the adventure really work for you, and that you find a good way to create that cadence between keep and its quests, and slowly learning more about the town, getting into that inner keep versus the outer keep. I hope this has all been useful to you. If it has, let me know how it's going. I've loved hearing your comments, especially the new DMs who are talking about how this set is working for them. It's great to hear. Thank you to those who make this video possible, who are on my Patreon. If you're interested in supporting me, you can find the information in the information below in this video. Thank you, and I will see you next time.